right, everybody, let's talk about what is next on our list, and that is all of the matches that we just went through this past week. A lot has happened, a lot of games went through, and yeah, we need to talk about the results. This is being done after the previews, so you'll see this. If you're seeing it in the order, it'll be slightly off compared to normal. That was just because both were going to run on Wednesday, and I want to get the preview up first. Let's do this. So, Boston Legacy showing out quite a bit. Like, actually, really becoming impressed with this team. They have grown a lot since the start of the season. They are competing well, and they show this at home by pulling out a 2-0 win over Chicago Stars. I had not expected them to be able to pull a game where they actually come out with a fairly definitive victory. They led slightly in shots on target, slightly in possession, and admittedly it wasn't that big of a gap had it not been for the penalty kick that Chicago gave up to Gutierrez in the first half of the first half. You wouldn't have really noticed it being as bad because it would have been probably 1-1 with the Nichelle Prince goal eventually being the difference in the score. But looking at it, while it was competitive, Boston did look like the better squad. And I think that should be a decent statement for them that maybe they're not bottom corner of the league anymore. It would the biggest thing stopping them from getting out of the bottom four would be finding a team that they can definitively get ahead of. And as we're going to see in a little bit, Bay FC and Houston Dash would probably be next in line. Neither of them are easy outs. So it is good to see, though, that Boston is moving into that category where they're not basement dwellers and can compete pretty well, especially against teams that are in the lower half of the league. So in that sense, good on them. Nice improvements. Another team that can say they've had some positives from all of this is Bay FC. Admittedly, this was an extremely dominant effort, like a shocking amount of domination, where, and I'm showing it there, Louisville did not get a single shot at goal, like not a single solitary point where the keeper actually was stressed in over 90 minutes. And Bay is dominating there. Louisville doesn't even hold the ball for 40% of the time. The only thing really notable is that Louisville... that was supposed to be capitalized. Forgot my own conventions on that. Okay, so yeah, Quincy McMahon's yellow card is like the only thing of note from anyone on the Louisville side, where the game starts out with Kennedy Fuller, fresh off her time at Angel City, having some major success, getting an 18th minute goal. Carly Lemma in the early second half puts it out of reach, and then we're just kind of meandering for the last half hour. So, not a lot to be said in terms of positives for Louisville. This team is careening. It's definitely becoming like the wooden spoon solid contender. Adjustments need to be made. Major shifts with the group. But right now they are kind of spinning their wheels. And I think hoping that just something materializes in their favor. Because as of right now, they are the bottom. And Bay FC, a fairly definitive win, a fairly breezy win. We'll see if they can take any momentum from that. Number 3 on this Friday. Remember, half the league played on Friday. Orlando Pride pulling a massive upset. Utterly dominating Kansas City Current in the goal category. It should not have been this dominant, though, as I put in the statistics here. Kansas City nearly doubled them in shots. Had a double-digit lead in percentage on time of possession. Like, they were controlling the game pretty well and got a good bit of offense out. They just were not making anything happen. The first half was very uneventful, and I think that really was to their detriment. because Orlando was not playing particularly well in that half. And then early in the second half, Lisbeth Ovalle feeds Marta. She gets the first goal. Ali Lemos sends one in for Hannah Anderson. And then Barbara Banda, who, remember, was injured and missed the last game completely in a fairly definitive defeat. She comes back as a substitute this go-around and immediately makes her presence known, scores an unassisted goal in the 85th minute, basically just to put a stamp on this game. But it is clear that team does rally pretty hard around her. It's very interesting to see how different in confidence this team is, knowing she's an option versus knowing she's not. As for Kansas City, this was a deeply shocking loss, as well as just it derails so much for them, where it looked like they were surging into that upper tier. They were in that top half, really trying to make some noise, and then suddenly it is not there anymore. Actually, I should probably keep my thing shrunk, because this the next one's going to be very long. But yeah, I don't know what to make of Kansas City other than consistency is definitely not there as much as it is with the other big teams, and that could very well come back to bite them if it happens at the wrong time. Already a multi-goal loss to a team who is hanging on to the last playoff spot by their fingernails really is not the way you want to look. It was not a great look going down Orlando and taking that L. Moving on to another matchup, this time with two high-ranking contenders. We got Utah Royals, Gotham FC. Really big showdown here between two teams also in that top 7 jumble. Utah, at home, takes advantage of their energy in the 23rd minute, gets a goal from Cece Delzer off of a Kiana Palacios assist. However, they make an unforced error less than 3 minutes later as Esther Gonzalez ends up getting a penalty kick that grants her a quick equalizer. And that really was Utah's day in a nutshell. This was one I was following a good bit. And it was just interesting to see anytime Gotham was kind of giving them some momentum, they would derail it. And it looked as if, okay, so injury time in that first half was wild. You can see it here. There were 2 yellow cards for Utah, and additionally, there was a goal for Gotham in between as Tierna Davidson gets the goal that puts them ahead. This changed the entire flow of the match. The second half felt very different for Utah after the fact. They were trying to regain control and just never seemed to really have it. And it kind of comes back to bite them on what should not have really been a goal. Their defense is more competent than to allow this, but Sarah Shapansky just pushes one through the defensive line into an uncontested area, and they just were completely caught off guard by this, as Esther Gonzalez just kind of takes a clean run at the goal and just pops it straight in. There was so little resistance on the play. It just looked like Utah was planning for something that was not that. And so, yeah, it was an off night for Utah in that second half especially. I feel like going down at the very end of the first half shook them up a good bit. And that's something that they are going to have to avoid and learn to train themselves out of. Because if your strategy is adjusting so much that you barely resemble what you looked like in the first half, that just off of that moment, you're going to need to be a lot stronger about making sure that that doesn't happen. And the recovery needs to happen a lot quicker. So, very good thing for Gotham here. They were showing a lot more of that champion's composure, still holding that cup winner status, trying to defend it. And so they did well. I'm impressed with the way Gotham has turned it around. Utah's still very solid, just we're seeing where their limitation might be, and that limitation right now is they need to get to that next level where they have that composure. All right, I've talked a good bit on this one here. Those who already watched my stuff regarding this recap already know. Angel City FC, the 2-0 victory over rival San Diego Wave. Um, 2 goals here. Mayara getting one in the 17th minute off a rebound shot from June Endo, which, let's talk about that for a moment. June Endo returned from an ACL injury that happened in 2024. She missed all of 2025. Comes back early in this season. Seems to be getting back in a rhythm. That first game back with Orlando was her first time going a full 90. And promptly the very next week, she is hurt again. And it is not clear what it is yet. No one has given any indicator how bad it looks or how bad it is. They haven't announced that she's going on the season-ending injury list yet, so she has not yet joined Hana Sugita in that regard, but it is definitely a concern roster-wise, since it was looking like that front line was really getting solid. But for the time being, this is what it is. Pearl Maroney yellow carded shortly after. Ari Borges gets a second goal in the 26th minute, and that really was all she wrote. Angel City knew San Diego Wave is a slow starter, got their lead, and then just rode the challenges the rest of the way, which was dangerous. They had a couple decent shots. Angelina Anderson was on form, shut them down, even shut down a penalty kick in the 86th minute from Leah Godfrey. So even though San Diego nearly had them doubled up on possession, tripled them up on shots on target, the 2 shots on target that Angel City got went in. They were able to maximize their opportunities, and that is huge when you're matching up with a team of the caliber of San Diego. So, really positive result for Angel City. Could be potentially a Pyrrhic victory if Endo is a long-term out. We'll see how the team responds. They got Chicago this week, so... End of Saturday's matches technically was Angel City, but the earlier match that day was Washington Spirit annihilating North Carolina Courage. As you can see, they dominated possession time. They dominated the shots. 2 unassisted goals late in the first half were really what separated it. Lacey Santos, Trinity Rodman both getting their own. Really solid effort. This is about what I expected. Carolina is trying to maintain their position as well. They're in that top 7, but I definitely feel like they are the weak link of it. And I think we're seeing that separation now. Where I would say right now there is even tiers within that top 7 where North Carolina's got limitations. We've got Utah that has some limitations. Kansas City has some limitations. And so you have those 3 where they're very capable at the top, but also can have very rough outings. And those are the ones I would probably see as the ones falling off here as the season goes on. Whereas Washington seems to be solidifying themselves pretty well. Time will tell if that maintains, but for the time being, it's been a pretty impressive effort. All right, that brings us to Sunday's matches. Denver Summit. This was a wild back and forth. The draw they had with the Houston Dash. Houston proving to be very game and ready to have some big successes. But yeah, they go down early and have to respond. And it happened here again. Yasmin Ryan gets a goal off of Janine Sonos' assist. And then Linda Olmark sets one up for Kat Rader literally in the next minute. So just as quickly as the lead was there, it was gone. Same could be said. Those 2 that gave assists both managed goals. Sonos at the tail end of injury time in the first half. Olmark in the first minutes of the second half. As for the time in between these back and forths, Denver was dominating time possession and shots. They just couldn't get a third one. And truthfully, you really shouldn't have needed a third one. It was coming out flat after the goal, coming out flat in the second half that came back and bit them. Denver has these moments where they just open the door a little too much. And the relaxation is definitely a sign that they haven't yet gotten that mindset as a team ready. But they are a solid team. I would definitely say they came away looking like the better team, even though they only managed to draw. So I'm interested down the stretch here. Does Denver remain a threat for the playoffs? Does Houston show something that makes them a threat for the playoffs? Or are they kind of in that tier where they're not at the bottom, but they are definitely not a playoff team? Because that's where they're sitting right now, and it seems like with their limitations, that's where they're probably going to stick. But we'll find out. Seattle seems to want to reopen the issue that they are a potential playoff team. They came out of their Cascadia rivalry here with Portland Thorns with a 2-0 victory, kind of showing that Portland doesn't do well in the style of game that is opposite to theirs. In this one, they actually had the shots on target pretty solidly. And yet, it was 2 first-half goals from Seattle, really surprising them. And they seemed to play the style that Portland was normally doing, allowing the game to come to them and responding. The counter-strike seemed to work pretty well for Reign, and I'd be interested to see going forward what these teams are capable of, or seeing what Seattle is capable of as the season wears on. Portland, I have said for a while, I'm not a believer of them as an actual Shield winner, and I think it's dicey to call them a potential cup winner because they would need to be hot at the very moment and would need to not run into a styles clash. And I kind of saw it a bit here. Like, does this mean that they are inherently limited? Not really. In terms of, like, being a top 4, I think they will be top 4. They'll compete with Gotham right now. I'd say it's one of those two being the third best. But if I'm looking at this league right now, San Diego and Washington are the 2 fronts. And even there, San Diego shows that slow start really does become a limit. I think right now Washington is playing the best football of anyone in the league, and that could change at any point. They have a game here this Wednesday, so we'll see what becomes of it. I will be tracking these, and as I've mentioned in the previous video, I will be live for the Gotham match, so tune into that. This concludes the recaps of the matches. This one was pretty long, quite a bit that happened, so enjoy these Wednesday games. Enjoy the World Cup semis. Go Angels.